2012. I just wanted to drop in and apologize for my flippant use of the N-word in this episode. Back here in 2012, I had two balls, a mom and a dad. No spoilers, but by the time you get to 2020, I have one ball and both of my parents have dropped their bodies, and I've changed a lot. But back here in early 2012, I was pretty ignorant, and so I hadn't put the amount of time I should have into researching racism, the history of racism in the United States, slavery, and what it was like and is like for a person of color to be born into a country that was built by hostages. Which is why I guess I thought it would be okay for me if I used a soft ah at the end of the N-word. So I'm sorry. I hope it doesn't seem like I'm making excuses. There isn't an excuse. It's not like any of this information was hidden from 2012 me. It's not like I didn't go to a liberal arts college where all this was immediately available to me. It's that I was ignorant, and ignorant in the sense of actively ignoring a reality, and the reality of racism in the United States. I thought about deleting this episode, but I feel like that would be cowardly of me. I want to own up to it. You're at the very beginning of a approximately 8-year process that I'm still in, and I change a lot. Hopefully mostly good changes, maybe not so good changes, I don't know. But one thing's for sure, I don't use that word anymore. And I won't use it again. Okay, pals, I'm going back to the future. I'm really sorry that I said the N-word in this episode. But not just this episode, anytime that I flippantly said it at all. And most importantly, I'm sorry that I spent so many years turning my face away from a brutal reality that I'll probably never fully understand because I'm white. The way photons bounce off of my skin makes it easier for me in this country. So I'm sorry that in the midst of having all the privilege that comes from a certain type of photon reflectivity, I thought it was okay to use a word that is incredibly insensitive, disrespectful, hurtful, and connects me to ignorance and a really dark, fucked up past where human trafficking was okay. And a pretty fucked up present. I hope you will accept my apology and have some patience with 2012 me. I'll see you back in the pandemic. Until then, Hare Krishna.
Welcome to the Duncan.
Oh, hello, friends and family. Slurping back some muscle milk here on a Sunday morning in Los Angeles, and I feel really good. Been doing this exercise program that my therapist turned me on to that is just crushing my body. It's pummeling every muscle in my body, and on various days it looks like I have different ailments. Like some days it probably looks like I have MS because I'm kind of like shuffling around and my hands are curling up because my muscles are cramping, and some days it looks like I have like paralyzed arms or withered hands because this fucking exercise program is it's amazing. It's really working. And it's also because it's so intense and because I so badly want to shake off the snake skin of my previous meat body, which is a little doughy. Let's put it that way. A little fucking doughy, hairy ball of like stored up beer calories and booze and fucking cake and God knows the stuff I've eaten. God knows what's stored up in my fat vaults. I'd hate to open some of those vaults and look in, because it's just an aggregation of weakness and drunken cheeseburgers and fucking piles of French fries and margaritas. Margarita soaked French fries is in my love handles. It's a real mess in there, and so I've sort of have made the decision that I'm going to go rampaging through these vaults and convert all of that stored up energy into something that doesn't smell like failure and desperation, and doesn't make me look like a weak, impotent, roly-poly little man. Have made the decision that I'm going to go rampaging through these vaults and convert all of that stored up energy into something that doesn't smell like failure and desperation, and doesn't make me look like a weak, impotent, roly-poly little man. As a form of experiment more than anything, to see if I can manifest my will into the material universe, as a form of alchemy, and also because I think girls are probably going to like it. And goddamn, that's a great fuel, man. What a great fuel that is. That's the fuel of empires. You have to admit it to yourself as a man that's what you want. Don't do that thing. You know, like when people are starting to get in shape and they're like, well, I'm doing it because it makes me feel good. Like, yeah, it makes you feel good. It does make you feel good. It makes you feel incredibly good. But you know what else it does? It makes it so that when you take your shirt off in front of a girl, it's not a net loss. That's what it does. It makes it so that when you remove your shirt, you don't have to look down at your pasty, hairy, pale, disgusting body and feel sorry for the girl that you're mounting. You can look down at yourself and at least think, you know what, I look okay. This is okay. This is a fair deal. And I know it's not all about the physical form. I know it's about what's inside. I know it's about the light of the soul and our eternal connection to the super matrix of intelligence that animates and lights up all things. As they say in the Bhagavad Gita, I am the taste in water and the heat in fire. I am the intelligence of the intelligent and the life of all that lives. And you know what else Krishna is? Krishna's fucking. Krishna's good sex. Krishna is that moment when you're in really good shape and you're fucking and you've done it. You've become the eternal spark. You've merged with the person that you are making sweet divine love with, and you guys are coming so hard it's making your eyes bulge out of your head because you're both excited about life and you're not having to overlook the story that a out-of-shape body tells. An out-of-shape body tells a tale, and a sad tale of woe. It's like the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, where in the very beginning he stumbles upon some old gnarly busted up sailor who like tells this awful story about how he got attacked by zombie sailors out floating on the sea, and it's all fucked up now. I think he's blind, he's drooling. That's what your fucking body says about you. No matter how fucking cool you are, no matter how like much you've figured out about life, no matter how advanced you are, if you haven't been able to control the basic fucking vehicle that carries you around through this dimension, then it's an indication that your focus has gone too far on the ethereal, the esoteric, and the land of the fairies, which is where my mind always tends to go because it's easier. You know, I heard this story about how, I don't know, a story, an analogy, I don't know, but it's a simple idea, which is that if you're going to build a house, you got to build it from the ground up. You can't start with the third floor. And a lot of people, they think, you know what, I'll just skip the body. I'll just skip the vehicle that I ride around in all the time, and I'll go for the moon. I'll try to go teleport my astral body to the moon, or conjure up this thing or conjure up that thing. And you can do it. You can do it. You know, having like being in shape or at least being moderately healthy is not a prerequisite to having some kind of occult power. But the problem is once you bring things to you and the vehicle you're riding around in is fucked up, then you're not going to be able to like use whatever the thing is, the variable is that you brought into your alchemical laboratory. So you got to start in the ground floor, which is what I've been doing. and I feel fucking good. This this podcast that you're about to listen to is one with one of my favorite people on the planet. And sometimes I yap about getting knocked off track and how important that is to run into somebody who kind of poisons the little tiny little fucking pond you've been swimming around in and forces you to climb out and crawl through the mud and go swimming in the deep ocean. You get lucky if you find somebody like that. And for me, that's what EMIL represents to me, because I was at this liberal arts college. I had no knowledge of, indie music or lo-fi music, or I'd never really run into somebody who was living an honest life. And I'd been around nice people, of course, and I'd run into interesting people and cool, but I've never run into somebody who was like, aggressively attempting to exist in a state of truth. And which is probably why when I first met him, he was like the most depressed person I'd ever seen in my life. He was, we were in some kind of, it was a sociology class or something. And I still remember like thinking like, man, that guy's a fucking dick. Why doesn't he perk up and listen to the professor? Because we're paying for our educations here. He's like slumped over in his chair with his fucking, wearing some thick jacket with a hood pulled over his head. And he looked like he was collapsing in misery there. And so we ended up becoming friends over Pink Floyd, because my dad was at the time running a shopping center, and a music store closed down. And so he got all the CDs, and my dad asked what CDs I wanted. I'm like, I don't know, Pink Floyd. And my dad sent me a stack of fucking Pink Floyd CDs, and I was sitting in the cafeteria, and I guess EMIL noticed that, and he's like, hey, let's go listen to them. And so then that was the beginning of one of the longest lasting friendships in my life, and definitely the beginning of the next phase of my personal evolution, because we started driving each other fucking crazy and getting in the types of fights you can only get in when you're sheltered at a liberal arts college with LSD falling out of the trees and awesome professors that fucking are almost compelling you to go insane for a while so that you can get your compass calibrated towards something real instead of calibrated towards the illusion that society encourages so much. So EMIL went on to become, well, he already, in school, he was already a musician. He's a super, super, super talented musician. And he had I remember he had a 4-track, I guess it was some old school vintage 4-track, and he'd sit in his fucking dorm room and records this beautifully poignant, incredible, haunting, lo-fi fucking songs that at the time I felt literally threatened by, because I recognized in him something that at the time I hadn't found in myself. And so when you're weak and you haven't figured shit out, the unfortunate ego reaction that you can have to that is one of a mild if not extreme competitiveness, because it makes you feel insecure because you haven't been working on your own shit. But as the years passed on and I became an old man, I realized I really got to appreciate what the fuck he was doing, especially at that young age. He's so fucking young. And making such incredible art, which I think is a pretty rare thing. But when it happens, it's incredible. So he went on to become an amazing musician. He's in a shitload of legendary bands, my favorite of them being the Holy Sons, but they're all incredible, including the Grails, an amazing band. Fucking drone rock, mind-melting, chakra-crushing music. So yeah, check out his shit. I'll put as many links up to it as I can. Before I go on and play the podcast, I want to say one more thing, because in this podcast, I kind of went on what many are going to say is an intolerant anti-Christian rant. So I just want to clarify, because sometimes I do that and I get tweets and messages from Christians who are dismayed at my intolerance and just can't understand how somebody who they consider to be a smart person could ever utter such horrific things about the fundamentalist Christians that currently pollute this beautiful Garden of Eden that we're all existing within. Now, I want to respond to that so that everyone clearly understands that I do not hate Christians. I do not hate Christianity. I love Christianity. I love Christians. The problem is there's not a lot of real Christians out there. And the ones that are out there, they're not vocal because they have like disciplined themselves using a metaphysical system that you can find encoded within the New Testament. And they've disciplined themselves so that they have directly connected with the force of evolution in the universe. And the moment you do that, you don't feel your inclination isn't to go running through cities with signs accusing people who love each other of being sinners or evil. You don't do that because evolution is all about advancing your own species towards a goal of becoming a type 1 civilization. If you don't know what that is, I'll put a link up to what that means. It doesn't mean trying to hold your species back and make them live according to a set of laws based on a literal interpretation of something that has been reinterpreted multiple times by mass murderers who are only wanting to use it to control armies and to get fucking rich. That's no good. Those are bad people who want to do that. And I think one of the most classic and horrific examples of these people that we have right now is Rick Santorum. The homophobic, anti-fucking son of a bitch who, as all these fundamentalist, patriarchal cocksuckers do, the moment they get any kind of platform, the first thing they want to do, they want to wrap up the pussy. They want to fucking put a chain around the pussies of the world. They want to control the pussies of the world. And the way they want to control the pussies of the world is not, in a wonderful way by making them orgasm and by filling those pussies up with sweet, adorable babies and healthy, hard cocks. What they want to do is they want to fucking put a padlock, chastity belt. They want to lock the pussy down, sew it up, put some stitches on that fucking thing and make it so that women have to feel as though they don't understand what they need for their body. They want to make it so that women feel like they have to hand their reproductive rights over to fucking weirdos and fucked up sweaters with bizarre haircuts. This is beyond S&M. This is so deep and foul. It reminds me of something you would find buried in John Wayne Gacy's basement under the crack-neck skeleton of an 11-year-old. These guys are foul maggots, and they fucking disgust me at every single level of my being. And their kind and their ilk and what they represent to me is so opposite the idea of love and compassion and evolution that you'll find in all the bona fide scriptures that they are, I suppose, as close as we'll ever get to authentic Satanists on this planet. And so I abhor them, and I only wish transformation upon them, whatever that transformation is, as long as it makes it so that they stop trying to control our number one resource on this planet, which is the vagina, because that's the source of all life on this planet, and also the source of so much pleasure. Get the fuck away from that, Santorum. Go find some other fucking thermal vent to suck energy from, you fucking god clown vampire. You're freaking us out, man. And why are we giving this guy like a platform to talk? This guy needs a ball gag in his mouth. That's the only thing he needs. He's a ball gag with a picture of Jesus painted on it, shoved into his bigoted, fucked up mouth. And then he needs to be put in a zoo. And we talk about that coming up. So hopefully that explains my position on fundamentalist Christians. And I'm going to also post on the comments section here. There's an excellent little story by Khalil Gibran where he talks about the Christian Jesus meeting the fundamentalist Jesus, and it's just brilliant, and it's a lot sweeter than the way that I articulated it. So there you go. That's my point of view on the whole thing. And if you like that point of view, and you like the things that I say on this podcast, then why not join the Duncan Trussell Family Hour forum at www.duncantrussell.com. And if you're offended by the things that I've said, and if you're offended by the things that I'm about to say, then why not join www.duncantrussell.com at the forums and have a conversation with everyone there. Are you a homophobic bigot parading around pretending to worship God when you're actually a dark, malevolent force in the universe ruining the happiness of everyone else? We want to talk to you. We want to see if we can help you. We might be able to get you out of your cult. Not sure, but I think we can do it. And I think there's a lot of people there who'd love to give it a crack to push you out of the awful world of the God clown and into the world of evolution, where we're all accelerating at a rapid pace towards the singularity and the transformation of our species into an interconnected glob of lovemaking and joy, as opposed to the interconnected glob of intestines and dismembered body parts that you want to create with your awful nuclear weapons and your crusader mentality. Now, if you like this podcast and you really want to fucking go for it, donate money to the podcast. Give me some money. Send some money to this fucking thing. Send your green energy blasting into the solar panels of this podcast so that I can expand and grow and continue to send out tendrils of this thing as far into the multiverse as I can make them go. I want to go to the Amazon. I want to drink ayahuasca in the Amazon. I felt the call. For those of you who have donated to the podcast, God bless you. Thank you. And for the ones who have sent exorbitant amounts of money that make my eyes roll back into my head and my hands tremble with joy, get ready, because I'm going to be sending you something very special as soon as I get around to it. And what that thing that I'm getting around to is I'm going to start for the first time in my life, I'm going to start selling merchandise. And the first bit of merchandise that I'm going to sell is this badass poster of me getting possessed by Lil Hobo. All the information is going to be up at duncantrussell.com. Go there, join us, become part of the family. And now, please tune your antenna and chakras in all parts of your being into this incredible conversation that I had with my sweet, dear friend, EMIL Amos. I love you. Hare Krishna. Get the pussies wet. Get the cocks hard. Make love to each other. Join together. Fuse your consciousness and become part of the blast of evolution that is at this very moment expressing itself in the form of all of us. Everybody who's tuning in and listening to us now, we are recording this via Skype because EMIL is in Portland right now. He's not in Los Angeles. The last two times he's been on this, or the earlier version of this show, or the moldering corpse from which this show is sprung, we had regular equipment, so now we're doing this from Skype like we did with Artosis. So if there's a little hum to it or it sounds weird, just deal with it, because that's where we're at right now. That's the part of the multiverse we happen to be rolling through at this moment, dear brothers and sisters, friends and family. And we have with us my dearest friend in the universe, EMIL Amos.
Feels good. I'm looking for shit on my laptop now so I could if I could find really rude, strange sounds. So if you say anything I don't like, I can make really odd sounds.
Yeah, let me see if I could do that. You fucking bastard. Don't do that, man. You mean
I don't have anything ready on
You want to make radio sounds?
No, just more just really confusing, kind of offensive. Anyway, let's move on to the first subject.
Go ahead. What's the first subject?
First subject is that I don't know if you ever read Yahoo News, but it's kind of fascinating. Yes. I just clicked on this new. It's like the ultimate anti-news. It's not news. Definitely not news. And but it's presented as news. And I'm sure it gets trillions of hits. But today I just watched. 5 seconds ago, I watched this very controversial clip of Steven Tyler taking off his clothes and jumping into the fake pools of hell on American Idol, and it just
We'll put a link to that. You gotta send me that, so we'll put a link to that. Why did he do that?
Well, first of all, the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I just like to say Steven Tyler is a genius. He's a fucking amazing. He's a genius. Not on just like one level, on every single level possible. But the Randy dude or whatever his name is that calls everybody dog is a fucking idiot. He throughout the clip he's just staring at him. It's like the worst acting where they've contrived a Yahoo News item by them acting as though it's outrageous he's going to take off his clothes, which is whatever, not the point. The point is Steven Tyler's
Wait,
genius.
why? I still don't understand. Why does Steven Tyler want to take off his clothes?
To make a Yahoo News item. It's like all life is completely fake. Like everything's fake. Like everything is nothing actually happens organically anymore, right?
Oh no, man, nothing happens organically. On TV. TV is a you know, as they say, I'm sure you're aware of this. I was at the Laugh Factory, and this comedian sat down with me, and he was he's a Christian, and goes to Bible meetings and prayer groups, and which I always think must feel really good. It must feel really nice to do that, to be able to do that. But he came and he was sitting with me, and you can always see that kind of glitter in a fundamentalist Christian's eye when they're about to start sharing their story with you. When they're about to share the word of the Lord, and they come and they sit with you, and they've like juiced themselves up to do this, and they're like ready to go. This is like, I imagine it's the same look that you might see on the face of lonely homosexuals outside a porn theater right before they're gonna blast jizz. Because they've been living for this release. This is their sexual release. It's their magic act. It's their little magic show. And if they can say the right things, they'll create some kind of chemical reaction in some people's brains, and the next thing you know, they're weeping and they're at a Bible group, and it's like that's like getting laid for a Christian, So
sure.
So yeah, he started talking to me about how powerful music was, and how Satan is the master of music, and there's no, it's no accident that inside of music there's so much, occult references. I believe he might have even gone so far back as to, talk about Stairway to Heaven as the, the quintessential satanic song, But he was talking about how powerful this is, and it's Satan, I guess in his mind it's like the hypnotic...
God. Make sure that guy never hears a band called White House.
What band is that? Is that a satanic band?
Well, just next time you see him, get like an MP3 of White House queued up and put some headphones on his head before he can react, and it'll just his world will shatter and deteriorate in 0.5 seconds.
Hold on 1 second. This might what is it on YouTube? Can I find them on YouTube?
I don't know. It's usually too dirty. It's noise music, just basically about raping. Their entire career is about raping.
Right. Well, yes. So in his paradigm of the universe,
I don't know if you're into Rape House at all.
Is it like dubstep?
It's like dubstep but it was before.
Is it like pedo step? You know. Well, yeah. So in this guy's paradigm, and we'll get back to Steven Tyler because I think it all ties into the same interesting pattern. But so in this guy's paradigm, it's so fun when you're around these fundamentalist Christians to like recognize who you're around. It's like when you're Santa Claus. Imagine being Santa Claus and your kid's on your lap, and you're looking down. Santa Claus is a man who's been paid to lie to children to support this insane paradigm that doesn't exist. The man's probably poor. Most likely the Santa Claus at the mall is living in substandard situations because you don't get paid a lot to be a Santa, and if you've got the time to go and do it, the chances are you're fucking desperate. You're hard up for fucking cash. So your job is to sit at the holidays in a shopping mall, which is just a nest of people swarming over the material universe, spending money. You're broke, and you got to fucking hold these little kids who have been lied to by their parents to be convinced that there is in existence a man who like uses reindeer to fly and brings them gifts, and you're supposed to be that man, and you mean everything to these kids. So when they look up at you, you can say one wrong thing and send them into you can ruin Christmas. You could send them into just a spiral. If you burp, if you just burp with one, if you farted when the kid's sitting on your lap for the rest of their lives, they're going to think about Santa Claus as just stinking of diarrhea, or if you've got booze on your breath or whatever. So you're this false idol. Santa Claus you've been paid to be a fucking false idol and sit with these fucking kids on your lap and fucking lie to them. And so in that same way, when you're with a Christian and they're looking at you from the same kind of place as a child looking at Santa Claus. They're looking at you from a place where they've been lied to and believed it for years. So they're looking at you and they believe, in the same way a child believes that in the North Pole there's some fantasy village where elves are busily making their fucking Legos and their Xboxes. In that same way, a Christian looks at you and he believes that there is at the center of the earth a torture chamber filled with people like you who they're talking to. If they don't get to you right away, you're going Chutes and Ladders style right down into the muck. Or... and he simultaneously believes that there's a white place filled with gold streets where Jesus floats around and angels sing. Completely androgynous, nobody's fucking. Worst place on the planet, maybe worse than hell. So when a Christian starts talking to you, you get to realize this is a fucking fascinating creature in front of you. Because it's somebody who's been hypnotized to that level of insanity and has been allowed to function in society where you've got to tolerate it and believe it. Like if you're like walking down the street or you're sitting on a park bench and a guy comes and sits next to you, he's like, "Hey boy, did I ever tell you how there's a duck living in my balls? It's a glowing magical duck and it grants wishes for me and the wishes come out in the form of my jizz." You just be like, "Well, you're a crazy, crazy man." You'd probably get up and walk away, but when a Christian comes and says to you, there is a being of great evil in this universe who is taking control of music, and that being is using the music to manipulate the children, to lead them into lifestyles of sensuality. Now, you have to take it. You have to be like, "Oh, okay, yes, yes, uh-huh, yes." Those people can run for president, too. A fucking homeless dude who thinks he's got a cum duck in his balls cannot run for president. I mean, he could, but no one's going to vote for him. But a fucking Romney or Santorum can get up there and talk about how there's a super powerful force who doesn't like it when a man's penis penetrates another man's asshole, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, yes, of course. We just take it." So Christians are fucking funny. But the thing that this guy said that I really did like is a form of symbol, as an awesome symbol structure, is he's like, only God can create. Satan can only imitate. Satan can only imitate. I fucking love that, man. It was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Like, you can really go far with that. Because when you turn on TV, what you're seeing is the imitation. You're not seeing, pure creation. You're seeing people who are imitating things to the point where it becomes the absurdity of Steven Tyler sitting with, what's that idiot's name? The dog guy? Randy.
The dog guy.
Randy, sitting with Randy and being like, yeah, okay. In some meeting, they're like, Steve, what do you think about this? We want you to get naked. And we're gonna get a lot of like good coverage for that. So are you into that? We'll throw in another $30,000 or something. It's so fucking funny when you watch. I didn't mean to go on such a long rant. When you watch the Kardashians, do you ever watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians?
I don't have a TV anymore, but no, I mean I probably would try it.
Okay, let's go back. Let's do a little blast from the past. Do you remember the time I came and stayed at your house? Right, I think we just graduated from college. I'm not sure. I don't know how I ended up there, but it was in Chapel Hill, and we took some acid, and we sat down and fucking watched MTV.
That was I still tell that story. We watched didn't we watch? We watched Cops too, didn't we?
We watched Cops, and we also watched a murder show. We watched a show.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're leaving out the one thing. It was the weirdest. I'm not going to be able to explain it to anyone, but the weirdest thing we actually ended up watching for the longest amount of time was Bill Clinton had to do some sort of address where he watched Wynton Marsalis play jazz music, and that was, I think, the most uncomfortable, strange thing I ever watched on TV, because we were tripping. So the discomfort of the room was amplified. Like he had probably just cheated on Hillary, and she just bitched him out, and then the cameras went on, and because the sense of like total, just like watching a president making the face, yeah, I'm really into jazz music and I'm really enjoying this for like 45 minutes was almost unbearable. Just anyway. Anyway, what do you remember? I don't. It was one of the weirdest. It was basically what you'd call kind of not a bad trip, but kind of a waste of a trip. Like it was interesting. Like I remember it, but like I don't want to take acid and watch.
Yeah, we didn't.
Again,
yeah, we didn't use it. It was, and at that time, I don't think we really like. Well, I think you did more than me because in college we would take acid. And I'd be like, come on, let's go. I'd want to do something. I'd be tripping, and I'd always want to be, like, doing something. And I remember what was interesting about you is you would take acid and go back into your fucking dorm room and record music. Do you remember that? Like, you'd go and, like, actively make music. And I always found that to be such a mark of intense discipline to be able to do that, because at the time I hadn't been fortunate enough to come into contact with a creative endeavor that really consumed me. But now I see what state of mind you were in, and you were like channeling this crazy fucking shit that I still listen to this day. I still listen to that. So it must have been like intoxicating. It would have felt weird to be on acid and not be using it to make stuff. But to get back to this fucking MTV thing, man.
To get back to something much.
No, it is. No, you know what, man? It connect. This all connects. The MTV thing. This will all loop around perfectly. But the MTV thing. What the reason it's so uncomfortable is when you're on a good psychedelic, you're on a truth. It's like they were testing it in the beginning because they wanted a truth serum to compete with sodium pentothal. But it's not so much a truth serum as it is like a lie detector. Because when you're on it, every form of non-organic life, or every, like, the games and, like, any form of acting, manipulation, subterfuge, is that how you say it? Any kind of, like, trickery becomes so blatant. This is why I almost feel like writing this down as a form of vow that the fucking next, from now on, if I'm ever gonna really start dating a girl, I'm gonna fucking drop acid on the first date. so I could see everything, you know.
You're stealing that from I Did Acid with Caroline, right?
I didn't steal it, dude. No, that's not right. But he didn't. Yeah, he didn't say I did acid with Caroline so I could see if she was possessed by the fucking devil.
Well, he should have.
That would have been a good line. But that song is incredible. We'll put that on the fucking Go Deeper section. But so when you're on acid, you really see what's going down. And when you watch TV, when you watch MTV, a president, anything. I was just in the desert on a wonderful psychedelic, not acid, and we watched the Kardashians. At the end of the trip, I'm sitting there watching the fucking Kardashians and like having that effect where their heads seem too big and like they got that potato head thing going on, and like you can really clearly see the amount of makeup that's been applied to them, and you can really clearly see the way that they've become locked in this kind of vice grip of having to, on a weekly basis, lie to billions of people to convince them that they're having a happy, fulfilling life, when the truth is that underneath it all is just this rotting stink, like what I imagine you'd smell like in a pit in India. One of the, do you know about those places where they dump the Sufis? Do you know about the temples where in India where the not Sufis, the Rosicrucians put their bodies? Do you know about this?
No, but I
so anyway, a rock pit. That's what's at the heart of the Kardashians, and seeing this bullshit, the lies that were happening in this show. And then there was another show, Ice-T has a show with his strangely hermaphroditic, transvestite-looking wife. Like, it's like really, and like you could tell he thinks she's super hot, but she looks like somebody like chiseled her fucking head out of a cold piece of butter. Like her chin's too thick and she's like spooky looking. But he in this one, I guess they write these. It's like a 4-year-old writes the plot of these things, and so in this one, Ice-T has said something to Richard Belzer that's upset him, and he needs to apologize to Richard Belzer. So there's like 3 scenes I saw. One scene is he's telling someone, "I just don't know. I think I pissed off Belzer." And then the next one, it's Friday, and guess what you do on Friday in New York if you're Ice-T? You're riding your yacht with your fucking weird wife and some unknown friend, and so he's spinning through the harbor in a yacht, and they've got to work this story in about Belzer. So he's like, "I'm a little worried about, I'm worried about Belzer." It's like no one's saying this for real on a yacht. No one even talks like that. And so then finally he goes into Belzer's office. This is the final scene. He goes into Belzer's office to apologize. Belzer looks like he is in the last stages of fucking terminal cancer. Have you seen Richard Belzer lately?
No, but have you seen fucking Roger Ebert?
No, I have not seen Roger Ebert.
Are you serious?
You mean since he lost his jaw?
Yeah, like in after that.
Oh yeah,
even.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen the pictures of Ebert. Yeah,
I'm not trying to be lowbrow or anything, but like we've talked about the Bud Dwyer suicide before, but like I think ever since that, I don't think I've seen anything that is totally turned my stomach and fucked with me more than that.
Well, you know what it is, man. It's the fucking you're seeing the very first parts of science, of medical science, getting to a place where we're almost indestructible, or we become like lizards that can grow their own fucking limbs.
Pretty much, like it was like some sort of it's like a Doctor Who like the bad side of science or something. But I mean, I don't know what I'm trying to say. So
He's
much
shocking, and so
that made me feel so sick. I don't know if that's like offensive.
Well, yeah, there'll be some cowards and pussies and like offended people who maybe you'll send a couple of emails about how dare we mention such an obvious thing, and they can fucking kiss my grits. Who fucking cares about them? You can say whatever you want. I mean, it's in everyone's thinking. He's a genius. He's a brilliant man. It has nothing to do with his mind. He's brilliant, and I'd much rather I tell you this.
Is he brilliant?
He's brilliant.
Is he brilliant?
He's brilliant. He's really smart, and he's like so good at analyzing movies and story structure, and he's.
I kind of have always given him a lot of credit in that way too, but I know that movie fans hate him so much.
Oh, they do? I didn't know that.
Well, I worship him for one thing alone, and it's probably a cliche reason. But it's he wrote, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
Yep. I didn't know he wrote that. I had no idea he wrote that.
He fucking wrote it, and it's fucking great, dude. It's so fucking.
Well, he's
great.
a fucking brilliant man. It's sad that his fucking jaw got removed and replaced by that. I mean,
wait. How did this happen? Remember how last time we did the podcast and it got erased?
What got erased?
The first half of the attempt.
This isn't going to be erased, but you know what? Let me stop it just to test it, okay? We'll do a quick stop, and then we'll get back. We're going to cut to a commercial. Then we're going to get back to talking about synthetic versus authentic reality and psychedelics and how it all applies to music. And Emil hunched over a 4-track in his fucking college dorm room with Satan's hand firmly shoved up his ass and controlling what's coming out of his mouth to create some of the darkest, most occult-ridden, intense music ever made.
Hail Satan!
Cutting to commercial. I, like so many others of my brothers and sisters in California, have decided that we don't want to suck the poison pumped into our mouths through the cocks of the pharmaceutical companies in the form of neurotoxins that they call antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication and painkillers. We don't want to get hooked into Pfizer. We don't want to get the fingernails of Satan stuck into our spine so that we can't escape. And if we try to get off their shitty synthetic crap drugs, we go through months of withdrawal and want to put a gun in our mouth. We've made the decision to seek alternative forms of medicine, and one of those alternative forms of medicine is medicinal marijuana. And when I go to buy medicinal marijuana, you know where I go? Sunset Junction Organic Medicine at 4017 West Sunset Boulevard. That's sunsetjunctionmeds.com. Why do I go there? Because everyone there's fucking cool. And the girls who work there are fucking hot. And everyone's nice. And it looks cool in there. It's nice and relaxed. It's not like these other dispensaries you go to where you feel like you're in a scene from New Jack City and you feel like at any second some thug's going to come busting through the door with a sawed-off shotgun and finish you off permanently. This is a nice, relaxing, artist-friendly environment. And they don't pay me to do these commercials. In fact, they don't even give me discounts on the medicine. What the fuck? The last time I went in there, my dear friend who works there sort of waved in my face this amazing vaporizer thing that I wanted really bad, but I didn't get it. Instead, I'm smoking this actually an excellent strain of marijuana that you can get there called Purple Trainwreck, and I'm smoking it out of an apple. But they have technology there. They have awesome pipes, edibles, you name it. It's all there, and it's air conditioned, and there's a cat, and it's lit. It's right next to Circus of Books. If you want to grab a couple of butt plugs and a Red Bull on your way back to your car, it's an awesome place. They don't pay me to advertise. This is coming purely out of my love for the fact that a place like that exists. So, do me a favor. If you live in Los Angeles and you're around the Silver Lake area, why not stop at Sunset Junction Organic Medicine and tell them that you're a member of the Duncan Trussell family and that you came there, and I bet they'll treat you really, really well, just like they treat me. And we're back. It worked. It totally worked. This is amazing. I love technology. So anyway, the whole point of this is that psychedelics reveal what's happening on television. What's happening on television, what's happening inside TV, what's happening when you watch TV is you, my sweet brothers and sisters, are being lied to at a level unprecedented in all of human history. Because you're not just being lied to by the nonsense lives that the so-called reality stars are leading. You're being lied to by the way they look, the way they're dressed. Every single thing that you see on TV, you're seeing someone who's processing the way a person should act through like 7 filters. They don't want to look bad. They want to make sure they appeal to their demographic. They want to make sure that they don't mess up their career. So everything they do is based on wanting to make sure that they continue to be able to sustain themselves via their personalities or their brand or whatever they're fucking doing. You're not seeing a real person. You're seeing a goddamn... what do they fucking call that shit, man? What do they call that? What do they call that? Do they have a name?
In the CIA, don't they call him a cutout or something?
Yeah, you're looking at a cutout. You don't even know who the fuck that person is. Which is why it's, so funny when people, like, fall in love with an actor and they want to go meet the actor. They want to go meet fucking Harry, what's his face? The guy who plays Harry Potter, or the guy who plays that that glittery vampire in Twilight. They want to meet those people, and then they meet the people, and all of a sudden they're forced to deal with the fact that, guess what? It's not a magical wizard, or it's not a glitter vampire. It's just some fucking dude who, like, is really good at modulating his emotional frequencies in a way that create a specific persona that doesn't really exist. And it's got to be disappointing, man. It's got to be disappointing. But but with TV, that's the real. This is what I was thinking. I was thinking how I'm in my fucking early 20s. Now, I'm in my 30s, man. I've got decades of existence under my fucking belt. And so I can, like, look at this shit and kind of, like, understand it's absolute nonsense and a lie. But what about teenagers? What about kids? When they watch this shit, they're not able to understand that this is not how people act. And the power of the TV, the combination of music and the combination of when you're sitting and watching TV, you're in a relaxed state, so your mind is wide open. And you're a fucking kid, you're being taught that the conversation Lamar Odom had with Khloe Kardashian's brother. Did you see that? Do you watch this shit? You've got to find it on the internet. I'll try to find this exact clip. But here's this. This is the story of this Kardashian. Let me tell you the drama of this Kardashian show. So, Khloe Kardashian's married to Lamar Odom. Khloe Kardashian has a brother who is. This is the story of this episode. Khloe Kardashian has a brother whose feelings have been hurt because Lamar Odom didn't come see him at Dancing with the Stars. And so they have to reconcile. And so Lamar Odom is sitting in this kid's apartment wherever they live. And the kids, it's all lies. It's all, when they're sitting there, when you're watching two people sitting there having a heartfelt moment, they are surrounded by probably 30 humans outside the periphery of the camera. Makeup ladies, agents, fucking craft services guy, cameraman, sound man. There's lighting people. They're surrounded by people supposed to be having this heartfelt moment, which must be the most uncomfortable thing to have to be a part of. You must feel like you're a sausage maker having to make sausages out of the corpses of fucking puppies and little girls, and you just I gotta make the sausage. It's my job. But you fucking watch Lamar Odom talk to this dipshit Kardashian, and Lamar Odom he seems like he can barely talk. Like he seems like somebody has he seems like somebody has injected some kind of morphine into him. He seems doped or drugged, or maybe like he got fucking knocked out a few too many times. I don't think he boxes, but like he's like, the Kardashian is like, I just feel like, you're my brother, and as a brother, I want to be close to you, bro. I want to know you. Lamar Odom's like, I never really thought about it like that. You could call me at any hour. Like, what? What are you, Frankenstein? It's right above Frankenstein speak. It's like that bad. So, like, I watch that and I'm like, my God, this is I don't know what this is, but it's beyond awful. But a 10-year-old who loves Lamar Odom and sees this interaction between two humans all of a sudden has subconsciously got to accept the idea that that's how a hero acts. Because fucking kids love that son of a bitch. You know what I mean? So they see that this fucking weird, inarticulate piece of shit who's incapable of expressing emotion and barely able to talk, they look at that and they're like, oh, that's what cool looks like. And so it spawns all these fucking beasts. And that's why TV is like so much worse than it seems on the surface. And then, you know what TV really is, and in between it, it's fucking commercials. It's fucking commercials where more people are lying to you to try to get you to buy shit that poisons the environment, will probably kill you, and you definitely don't need. So, you know, the whole thing's a fucking synthetic mass of diarrhea, you know.
Well, I don't want to go into it because I'll want to talk about things. Well, first of all, here's a couple recommendations. Watch a documentary called Empire of the Air. I believe that's what it's called. I might have to fucking double check that bullshit.
Where's it located?
It's like a PBS jam. It's one of my favorite documentaries. I don't really know why. It's all about the invention of the television. It's fucking amazing. It's so good. Why it's amazing, it gets too complicated, but basically in the documentary you kind of see the tension between inventor versus basically CEO, and the inventor jumps off like a skyscraper and kills himself of the television, and the CEO just becomes like, I think it might be David Sarnoff, becomes like the richest man in the world. It's fucking fascinating. It's fucking amazing.
The creator of the television killed himself?
Well, I
could understand that now.
It's been about it's been about like 6 years or something since I've seen it. It's been the creator, the inventor of the tubes inside the TV that made it initially function, but I can't quite remember. Everybody should see it. It's amazing. But then, you know, you remind me of like something to do with Gorbachev, like that, like his era was like the first time the Soviet Union was able to use TV to really control political, worldviews, and that basically that was the biggest paradigm shift, and well, you know, it just goes on and on, but when you just start talking about the Kardashians and people like kids watching it reminds me of my grandmother even, and my mother, who grew up, you know, with watching the first movies, and that was, I think, the first initial frontier where people started imitating. They started to learn to imitate, you know, watching people like Cary Grant, you know, and like the national value system started to really get shaped by the things we thought we ought to be, or the ways we ought to act. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I do know exactly what you mean, and anyone who is in power is going to recognize that. Anyone who wants to run anything is going to totally recognize that. I mean, if you were, let's say you were somebody who had to train Chihuahuas, you know, and it takes a long time to train a Chihuahua. It takes a long time to train a dog, you know. So imagine like suddenly you realize, wait, I've got this. There's a new box that just came out, and if I sit the box in front of the Chihuahuas, it's going to show alpha Chihuahuas on the box, and the other Chihuahuas are going to see the alpha Chihuahuas do the trick, and that, I swear to God, they'll just start doing the trick. It's awesome. You don't have to sit down with each one individually. You just they fucking love watching it too. They'll just stare and watch the alpha Chihuahuas and then start doing it. All of a sudden, you got a room full of cute Chihuahuas doing tricks. So that's what TV is for humans, and instead of it being Chihuahua trainers, it's our reptilian overlords who have recognized that they can like actually make us think that objects in the material universe are going to bring us happiness.
Well, dude, you are hitting on a much more ancient thing. I mean, not TV, but the nature. I mean, you're talking about the nature of power, right? Because that's where people they see power. So they gravitate towards it. They do whatever it is they need to do to be next to that warm fire of power, you know?
Yeah.
And in addition to that, maybe the Christian you were talking to was absolutely right, because what did he say was Satan's methodology for acquiring power or spreading a viral disease?
Music.
Oh no, I was going to say imitation.
Oh no, no, he was,
and that's what the Chihuahuas are doing.
Oh yeah, imitation. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes. Much far better point. And yes, so all these fucking magical systems. Christianity's a magical system. Any occult magical system has symbols within it. It's just the difference between Christians and most other people who are into magic is they don't understand that they're dealing with symbols, little filing cabinets filled with power. That's all symbols are. They don't recognize that. So when they say Satan, really to me, when I hear Satan, all I think of is like, any kind of force that's just focused on itself and is only, is totally cool with other things around it dying or falling into like bad lives as long as it's getting what it needs. That's Satan. Look at the fucking tarot card, the devil. It's like bondage, man and a woman fucking chained to this fucking awful monster thing in the middle of them. The masculine and the feminine locked down by some hideous power. So yeah, let's just replace fucking Satan with these cunts who've managed to convince themselves that producing this kind of psychic diarrhea like the Kardashians or that Ice-T show or any show that makes people think that being a materialistic dimwit is an appropriate life choice, though, that's Satan.
Well, I'll tell you what, because I have to deal with music from sort of like an underground perspective, like that mentality. I guess it's worth saying that the mentality of seeking power, I mean, it penetrates every crevice of human life. There's no area, there's subculture in which it never completely ends up ruling. I mean, people could disagree, but it's just pointless. I mean, it doesn't matter what political party you are in. It doesn't matter if you think, you're on the cutting edge of whatever. People are drawn in by and made to follow their worst, impulses of conformism to accomplish whatever is at the top of their particular power structure, power pyramid, or whatever, in whatever genre their interests lie.
Yes. And by the way, the quest for excellence or the quest for developing yourself or the quest for expanding and becoming something powerful, there's nothing wrong with this. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, it's the number one pursuit, because what you're talking about is the pursuit of freedom, and you're talking about the pursuit of personal evolution. And the phenomena where, as you begin to evolve and become more powerful, the phenomena where people around you might begin to look at you and want to imitate you, the idea is to discourage the imitation, but to encourage the people around you to begin to seek this type of power, or to create their own personal self-evolution, not to become a synthetic person or a replicant or someone who's trying to imitate, but to become actualized. That's the idea. Actualize yourself, and then people around you will see that you're doing something, and they'll be like, whoa, what the fuck's going on with this guy? And then the next thing you know, if you've if you've done it on purpose, I don't think you can actualize yourself unless you do it on purpose, then you could tell them, oh, here's what I've been up to. Here's what I do. Here's the tricks I've been doing. And then the next thing you know, you're not surrounded by imitators. You're surrounded by really cool, smart fucking people. And then we can finally become a class 1 civilization instead of a class 0 civilization. And then once we become class 1 civilization, then we'll become a class 2 civilization. And the next thing you know, we'll atomically disperse infinitely throughout the universe. And as it was in the beginning, it shall be in the end, and we'll reform as God. Are you still there?
Yeah. A couple things have been occurring to me as you're talking. But one thing that occurred to me is back when we would take philosophy classes together, we were sort of taught by for those who don't know. This guy named John Casey, who is sort of, probably in the running for like greatest minds of the last half of the last century.
Dude, I was just thinking about him today. Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, he's definitely, in some way I have no problem saying that he's some sort of father figure to me or something, or was. But he would start. I remember at one semester particularly, kind of all of his classes were generally sort of the same. He just sort of talked about whatever was on his mind. And they all came back to the same place. And I remember him kicking off one semester basically saying, what his current philosophical struggle was that when it all comes down, the one thing he wanted to learn how to do was largely to change people's minds, and what the reason why I'm bringing that up is because a lot of the stuff you just said, whatever the potential of what you just said, it is kind of is corrupted and virally deteriorated by this virus of bad taste,
yes.
Like bad taste in itself, or faulty thinking. I think in Truth Tables classes he would call it like something to do with logic errors or something, but bad taste in general. It's making what you're talking about in terms of like a spiritual uniting and a coming together. It's making that impossible, because if the Chihuahuas are looking at a set of alpha Chihuahuas and they're choosing the wrong thing to imitate,
yes.
What are you going to do? His question to us was,
start a podcast.
Yeah, no, now you're getting into exactly what the problem is. With the internet too, it's like it's so much freedom that there's no arbiter, there's no delineation of what is actually a little bit more pure than the next sentiment.
That's the thing, man. It can't be the idea of the thing is that you can't. You don't want it to be the moment you get into the place where you kind of say, oh yeah, you don't want to become an arbiter of taste, but you want to personally, if you can, become autonomous, and you want to become someone who is like made a real strong decision to choose freedom over comfort. Because if you start there, that's as far as I've been able to boil the thing.
Well, I would argue, I don't know if I would argue this, but it seems arguable that you are an arbiter of taste, just because you have a website, and in a sense you are recommending to whatever demographic you're recommending music and whatever,
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Maybe it's unavoidable, and maybe it is good to be an arbiter of taste and to give people, to like point people in the right direction, or to point people in the direction of things that got you to a place where you could start really feeling happy.
I don't see anything wrong with it. That's the whole concept of having like the older brother get you into the best Def Leppard record instead of starting at the worst.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. That's okay. It's like, and here's the thing: to get back to this Chihuahua idea, or to get back to like what's an easy. In the past, I have slipped into this place. You can get into this place where you're like, well, it's a hopeless struggle. You're not going to be able to create this exchange of information that transforms zombies into autonomous beings. Because what you're up against is the billion-eyed fucking body of Lucifer that's beaming out from every orifice, hypnotic spirals of shit that are confusing people into thinking that this crap is good. And but here's where it gets interesting. Thank God for the fucking internet, man. It's like giving people for the first time the chance to pick the kind of entertainment that they want to consume. And a lot of people, they don't want to just consume like cotton candy entertainment that rots your brain teeth. They want shit that's like simultaneously entertaining and fucking also like has within it something that makes that inspires them, or like creates accelerates their evolution. That's what I like. That's the shit I like. When I read, I like to read Joseph Campbell, or I like to read Ram Dass, or I like to read shit that's going to, like, blow my mind if I get to the right paragraph. And I like shit where if I'm reading it, there is some chance that I'm going to stumble upon something that's going to change my life permanently, which has happened with Ram Dass tons of times. That's what people want. People don't want to watch fucking Lamar Odom struggle over, you know, you don't want to watch Lamar Odom's circuitry overheat as he, like, deals with what an emotion is. They don't want to see that. They want to they want the real deal.
Well, I don't, it seems like maybe you kind of, like, maybe lost some of your direction, because you went from the internet to the Frontier TV there. I don't know where.
Well, no. Here's where we're at. This is where we're at. To bring it back, what we're talking about here is the idea of, to get back to, you're talking about a logic error. Why do people have bad taste? Where does the bad taste come from?
Yeah.
Where does it come from? The bad taste. What the bad taste comes from is the same place.
Okay, I think I see where you're going.
The bad taste is a result of consumption. Bad taste is a result when you see somebody hobbling down the street and they weigh 380 pounds. Where'd that fat come from? It's easy. I can tell you where the fat came from. The fat came from eating fast food and pizza and processed shit that has been loaded down with chemicals. That's where it came from. So in the same way, when I see some dope who's got bad taste, I look at them and think, oh, I know why you have bad taste. You haven't been exposed to fucking good to stuff that's delicious, to stuff that's satisfying. And the moment you start exposing that to people to that, then a lot of times they'll go for it. And if they don't go for it, it's because they're still caught up in their ego and they don't want to they don't want to deal with it. And those are the people you leave in the dust. They're not on your level, brood.
Well, what about the gluttony that began the process of the consumption?
Right. Well, yeah, the gluttony. People don't understand that. They don't understand.
You can just stop there.
No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful, man. You know what people don't understand? They don't understand.
You're like the new fucking Jeff Foxworthy, except you just start. Every bit starts with you know what people don't understand.
People don't. You know you're a person who don't understand, when.
I guess George Carlin pretty much already did that, huh?
What? What do you mean?
Like start every joke with how stupid people are, or whatever.
Yeah, but he was, he was a black fucking wizard, that Carlin, because he really had underneath it all what I think might be a little bit of hate for people. Mm-hmm. Like he was like casting these existential voodoo curses on the logic constructs of people in theaters, and I think it probably, some people, it ruined their lives. I imagine George Carlin fucking ruined some people.
I don't know. I mean, that's my shit. That's what I want to see stuff. If I'm going to go to a preacher, I'm not actually like a huge Carlin like freak, but I did see him live when I was a kid. But I that's my shit. If I'm going to go see somebody preach, I want to see him have some anti-humanism. That's my demographic.
It's sweet too. I mean, goddamn. I mean, it cut me. He gave me a nice couple of cuts just from seeing him once. It was like, once I realized, like, oh, this guy is like, his intentions aren't what I would necessarily call good. You know what I mean? Like, he's not doing this shit out of some kind of desire to soothe the people. That's
that's not bad, right?
No, it's not bad. He's not a liar, and he's angry. And so if he's an honest, angry person, then his stuff's going to have within it tone of anger, and it's refreshing, and I think it's nice to hear that. It's like a good cold shower or something.
Well, if he had some element of what I experienced in LA, like watching stand-ups, like a lot of that LA shit is like, and I'm saying LA because that's where like the heart of like fucking the comedy industry is, but like a lot of that LA shit is really like manufactured anger, you know?
Oh, for sure.
You know, but like Carlin's like, you know, you go through so many phases when you take acid or something like that, and one of them is like complete harmony, complete resolution with the universe, and maybe the trip ends like that, but that's largely to do with, or at least in my experience, it has a lot to do with your internal processes. And then as you grow up, I'm kind of making a wager here for Carlin, but like as he matured into kind of like a wise person, you know, he learned to look at the world and not walk out his front door and like just trust everything, you know, willy-nilly. You know, he's just being skeptical as any like wise person. John Casey, I mean, same vibe, right?
Yeah, totally.
There's nothing wrong with being angry on like just a basic organic level, but I don't feel like I want to put like that on my name as like my philosophy or anything. But I will say that I believe that a core aspect of the reason why any art has ever been good and or was ever made is directly correlated with the beauty and power of just pure anger, and that's just the way it is. I don't know why, but it's just, you can't take it away. It's just the way it is.
It reminds me of something I read in a Hare Krishna book, and like the Eastern systems are really cool because they get very detailed in their they try to like break, like with in Bhakti Yoga, they try to identify every spectrum of experience that you can have in devotion to God. So every spectrum of possible experience, all the different relationships that you can have with God get broken down in the most minute atomic way. And I remember one of the things that they wrote about was how there's something that you can experience called righteous anger. And it's a form of purified anger that is actually a form of devotion towards the anger itself is a form of devotion. So this is in the East, you know, this is one of the cool things that they do is they don't try to like say, no, anger, you know, anger's bad or lust is bad or this is bad or don't have this feeling. They just take all the feelings and show the two sides of it. It's dumb anger and righteous anger. Righteous anger is a beautiful thing, you know, and like when you rage over the, you know, well, we were just fucking doing it to you know, the fury of television or the horror of what's happening. I feel real anger when I talk about that stuff, and I don't think it's bad. I think it's just thrusters for a rocket. You know, it's a tool. But there is to experience that kind of righteous anger, I think you need to get to that place that you were talking about that you can hit with acid, that place of peace, or a place where you've kind of begun to actualize yourself so that the anger doesn't feel bad. It's coming from a pure, real place, and that's a good feeling.
Yeah, I agree with you, and to answer some sort of question or thing that was never resolved, and I think maybe the first podcast we ever did, you kept asking me at the end why I was why I had regressed to a point of pessimism after this. Yeah, so I don't really have a total answer to that, but I will say that I remember distinctly facing the future of my own like kind of artistic because like lyrics and everything back at that point, this is like 1999 to 2000, were so important to me, you know. So I remember thinking, oh shit, you know, as I get more bummed out, the message of my music is just going to become more and more sort of I don't know, unflattering or uninspiring, or basically less to do with the philosophy that I had started to carve out for a couple years, and kind of starting to contradict whatever philosophy I had tried to uphold. So I remember thinking to myself, well, what am I going to do about that? And just saying immediately, well, it doesn't matter, like being honest was the initial objective, why I started using music as a sort of portal to the search for truth or anything like that. And so if it means that I have to report on any certain day that I'm incurably depressed or whatever, it doesn't matter, because, and I think that in the sense that if the Dalai Lama or Buddha was able to go to a George Carlin show, which is possible, in the, anyway, they would probably come away and say, this man is a compassionate human being by the same definition that you're talking about, which is compassion is to be emotionally 100% present.
Hell yeah. Yeah, dude, that's it. That sums it up perfectly, too, man. It's called, it's like what Ramdas says, don't be phony holy.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, if there's any objective to your emotional presentation or anything, then you get into exactly what you're talking about with the Kardashians and the source of sort of capitalistic evil in the world, right?
Okay, I'm taking a quick break so that I can, before I forget. Listen, you guys, on the Duncan Trussell Forum, we've started a thread. Check it out. We want to gather. I want you guys to start recording your lives. I want to hear what's going on out in your sector of the multiverse. Record your lives. Record the weird conversations. Record anything weird happening. And send that to Dustin at the Martian. Dustin Martian at the Duncan Trussell Family Hour Forum. He's my sound guy. He's also an incredible musician. But we want to sew together a tapestry of all the weird recordings that we get from you. So send that to us. Would you please? Just record it and send us. We want to hear it all. Fucking, fighting, arguing, lying, and dying. Send it all, okay? Okay, bye. Hold on. God damn it.
How much time have we done already?
We're back! And we're in the studio with EMIL Amos! EMIL Amos! You getting a lot of pussy out there on the road these days, brother?
I was just going to ask you, actually, if is it true that getting older is always better than being younger? Do you think? No, I mean, just as a starting point. I don't even fucking care about the answer.
Okay. I'll give you my fucking answer. There ain't no such thing as time, my nigga. Here's the thing, man. I don't care if you're a fucking 8-year-old or an 80-year-old. If you can fucking find, if you can find the things that are keeping you from freedom in your life, and you can just begin trying to remove them. You don't even have to remove them. But if you can just make efforts at removing them, then your life will become so much stunningly better than it currently is that you will wake up smiling again, which is the mark of whether or not you're happy. You go to bed, and you don't go to bed because you're finally like, oh, thank God I get to blank out of the universe for 10 hours. Oh, I hate it here. Oh, God. You go to bed, and you're like, man, I can't wait to wake up tomorrow because I got, whatever the thing is that you're doing, whatever the thing is you found, the project, what I consider to be the great project, is removing the forces that are impeding your evolutionary process from your life. Just getting fucking rid of them. And it doesn't matter how old you are. Yeah, I used to think... at a depressed time in my life, I would look back to myself as a child, and I would think about that exuberance, the exuberance of being a kid. You don't want to fucking go to bed because you're so excited about being alive, and you fucking when you fucking wake up, you're zooming around, super happy. And these moments are, of course, intermittently marked with like fights and tears and real emotion, but you're really living. Now, one popular myth is that goes away just as a function of age. Or the vampires will tell you that that those kids are happy because they don't understand the real world. They don't know what it's like out there. They don't know that you got to work to pay your bills and you grind your fingers to the bone just to scrape some food from this hard, cold land that was made cold and covered with weeds because that whore Eve ate of the forbidden fruit. And the Lord made her childbirth painful and made it hard to live upon this earth. And that's the curse that we bear. See, that's the satanic philosophy. That's the true philosophy of the devil. Because guess where you're at? You're in heaven. You're in paradise. You're in heaven. And if you could just find where the clamp is on your fucking joy hose and fucking unclamp that son of a bitch, then such energy will come bursting into your life that you won't be able to, you won't believe it. You won't fucking believe it, and you won't do the thing. You won't do the thing where you're like, if only I thought of this a few years ago. Because you won't fucking care. You won't care what you thought about it. It doesn't matter how old you are, because once you start experiencing it, you're touching something transcendent. And when you're touching that fucking transcendent thing, you realize, this whole fucking game of time and age and all of it, it's absurd. It's just shit. It's just ghost stories vampires tell their slaves to keep them miserable. Because if you're miserable, you're going to fucking be self-destructive and live a shitty life, and you're not a threat. That's my opinion on fucking age.
You have like your true diva colors are like coming out day and more and more every day. Diva.
You think I'm like Whitney Houston?
Well, I mean, diva is generally reserved for people who are sort of like they seize their own power, right?
Oh, that I'll take that, man. But when I hear diva, I think of some cunt who made somebody making $8 an hour arrange their cheese slices in the form of the Star of David or whatever.
Who did that?
I don't know. It's just in like ride. You can look up on the internet. You can get famous people's riders. Like the shit that they want, and they're fucking when they're backstage at the theater, and it's crazy shit like doorknobs polished and certain colored chairs and drapes and just insane shit. But yeah, as far as like seizing your own power, I feel like I've been playing around with that project and with some success. And the more I do it, the more happy I become, and the more inclined I am to talk about it. Just because it's like the number one project in my life right now. But and also just because I know that like people who aren't doing it, if they started doing it, they'd be a fuckload happier. And the more happy people are, the better the world becomes. And the better the world becomes, this is where it gets faith-based. But I feel like the better the world becomes, the more people like the Kardashians who are just a symbol for bad taste, or the more people like anyone who is a tabloid exploiter, the more people like the people who create this stuff and think it's okay to poison the psychic consciousness of the planet, the more they will begin to become irrelevant. The more they'll be pushed back and away and out, and the more like real artists, perhaps. Maybe there's Renaissance. There is always the chance for a revolution in every generation. Always. There's always that potential. There's always the chance for things to get brighter and more beautiful and vivid and incredible. It's always there. And the more
I totally agree. I just think that and I don't mean in some statistical form, but I think that in a way, I mean, things ultimately do generally remain the same in some sense. I don't think that I don't know if I'm disagreeing or agreeing, but it just seems like they always the same amount of confusion is always present to some degree. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but here's the thing. The confusion, if you're talking about a personal confusion, then yeah, it makes sense. But if you're saying that, like, in society there's always some level of confusion, or out there's always going to be this, whatever, the dum-dums wandering around and all that, like, I've stopped buying into that, because I think that that's a function of conditioned behavior patterns to begin to mainly because it creates a sense of hopelessness. Mainly because it creates this, like, notion that no matter what you do, you're just shoveling shit against the tide, brother. And you can fucking imagine and fantasize all you want about a planet where people have put down the guns and picked up the fucking Bhagavad Gitas and aren't afraid of fucking anymore, and aren't sexually repressed, and aren't fucking stuck in horrific repressive S&M relationships where you're the only person I'm going to make love to for the rest of my life. Acting like that's normal. All the repressed shit and the resulting psychic damage that comes from that. Dude, I think that planet can exist. I think a planet can exist where people are no longer bound by the primitive thought chains that have been constructed by people a long time ago and are still being upheld by people in a variety of ways. I think those thought chains can get transformed in the identical way that the thought chains that kept the proto-hominids in the jungle and kept them from creeping out into the savannah, the thought chains that keep any species from evolving, eventually break. And the species evolves, man. The species fucking evolves, and I think that it's happening right now. It's possible. I think it's possible. And if it's not possible, fuck it. If it's not possible, why? Fuck it. It's fun. It's a hell of a lot more fun than fucking other endeavors. It's a lot more fun than, like, I don't know, getting good at bowling.
To some, that's probably the ultimate evolution, dude.
Hey, man, I'm not going to stop you from bowling, brother. You get out there and bowl. But from now on, don't bowl for yourself. Bowl for your species. We got to fucking become an expert bowler, for your species. We got to move this son of a bitch to a type 1 civilization. Look at what's happening in Syria, man. This shit can't keep happening. We got to get this shit. For once and for all, we got to fucking get this shit fixed. We're surrounded. You cunt.
That was no, that wasn't the laptop. That was my phone blowing up.
Anyway, look. Here's the thing, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm just some fucking aging hippie with some kind of weird delusion. But as far as I can tell, man, there's a lot of people who are really interested in the notion of turning their backs on the fucking spiral beams of Satan and all the vomit culture that has been shoved down the mouths of people for so long, and starting their own fucking philosophies and their own podcasts and their own ways and their own religions and their own everything. Starting fresh. Why not? I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah, I'm not going to descend upon your notion with any sort of sad pessimism, because it just seems worthless. But I mean, I do have my own. I don't know. I'm not in that state of mind. I guess that's what I would say. I'm not in that state. I agree with everything you're saying, and I definitely agree that. I mean, to say evolution isn't possible or imminent is ridiculous, but I definitely agree with that for sure. I'm just not in that state of mind at this very moment. I'm worried that I don't trust my fellow man. Like I just went through a lot of tax problems, and I remember thinking at one point that the people that I'd hired to figure out my taxes, who are people who are supposed to help me, I remember thinking I would rather just go straight to the government, talk to the government themselves, because I actually ended up trusting the government much more than the people who you hire to fix your fucking taxes for you, because they seemed much more ultimately interested in their self-interest. Government as a parental entity is sort of was in this situation, at least held against the wall, and couldn't really escape their responsibility to charge me a very exact amount of money for the money they claim that I've made. So I kind of just called up the government and said, listen, how much do I owe you? Figured it out, and I realized having a middleman, which was sort of like supposed to be someone helping me escape the man, was actually my problem to some degree. They were fucking me up. And so in some strange way, I know it's not a popular sentiment or something, in some strange way though, I feel like it kind of confirmed some feeling within me that I don't like the George Carlin, like when I walk outside of my door during the day, and I know that this has in my life created a dynamic that I'm not proud of, but I know that I generally don't trust people just off the bat to some degree. I think it's for certain evolutionary reasons itself, but
don't confuse what I'm saying with saying that you should trust people.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to somehow sloppily just say that, like, my optimism doesn't quite extend as far, but I also don't think any of that is like, I think we generally agree, but I think there's some disparate aspects that are probably interesting to go into. I kind of don't want to be the negative to your positive completely, mostly because it's oversimplified, but also because I will also emphasize that I know that I've created a lot of trouble for myself, at least socially, in ways in my life, by just immediately off the bat just not really believing that I had much to learn from other people in certain situations. It just as an admission of my own. I don't know. I think there's a lot that you're saying or would say about your attitude, that like you kind of manifest your own negative destiny that I think is very, very true. And I think I've learned kind of the hard way, like we all have when you're I don't know, you probably have a great story about it, but like, kind of being like the new kid in a school, and just creating a shitty dynamic for yourself by ultimately doubting other people's kindness and creating a dynamic, which kind of reminds me of this one story. Have we ever told this story where you called the bully out and he went home and killed himself?
I think we did in an early. I have talked about it, but and the story to summarize was there was a bully. And there was a fucking bully, and he was just this kid, and he now he wouldn't be a bully, he'd just be a kid, but he was bullying someone. I grabbed and told him, you can't do, why are you doing that? Because I've been bullied. I fucking hate bullies, man. I've been bullied, and I saw him doing this to some kid, and so I like shook, and then the next day there's the pall over the school. And the kid had gone home and shot himself in the face with a gun. Now, this was a moment of I over the course of my life, felt guilt about this. But then suicide doesn't happen from one event. Suicide happens from a lot of things, and I certainly don't think that I think I might have been one of the drops of water that ended up pushing the scale in that direction, but which makes me somewhat culpable, I guess, in a really micro way. But, if you can't modify your behavior out of that kind of fear, especially if it's coming from a good place. And I know that me wanting to stop someone from bullying someone it was coming from a good place. I was just a kid and I didn't know what I was doing. If I was smarter, I would have handled it a different way. But I wasn't. But I don't know. Why do you bring that up?
I might unconsciously be bringing it up because I've become like insanely obsessed with these shows on serial killers, and all the episodes are based on the psychology of what happens to you when you're young. Basically, that creates that environment. But I mean, for my own interest, I would go more on the tangent of like what I've done and or how I've created a negative world for myself. But in that sense, I find it extremely fascinating in terms of what happens to people in general that creates horrible people. You know, I mean, and
they become automatons.
Yeah, it goes back to your Kardashian rant, I guess. Like, how do people become terrible people?
I have theories on it. My main theory is that it's from Gurdjieff. It's this idea that people put themselves on autopilot at some point to avoid reality because they're around psychic vampires. And whenever you're around vampires, it's such a terrible experience because vampires, they initially will always seem terrifying and horrible and unovercomable. And when you're a little kid, if your parents happen to be vampires, they are. You can't do anything about it. You're not going to be able to stop your fucking molesting parents from ramming their fingers into your asshole for years. And this is why people will go so into autopilot they don't even remember it, and then they go into therapy and they're like, "Whoa, holy shit! I had to not exist for 12 years of my life on and off to prevent my paradigm from crumbling, because there's no way you can exist as a child with parents and trust them and love them while simultaneously knowing that at night every once in a while they come in and fuck your mouth. It doesn't work, so you blank out. You blank out. You know, it's that bad, and then that's a vampiric act. You know, those are monsters. Those are vampiric demons. They're monsters. They were they probably turned into vampires because of other vampires. Because you know how vampires fucking make new vampires. They bite somebody and it fucking turns that person into a vampire. So what ends up happening is. You end up in your life surrounded by vampires, and you blank out, put yourself on autopilot, and just like anyone who's on autopilot, you don't change your behavior according to the new terrain that you're getting in. You just leave it on autopilot. So you end up in a fucking brand new part of the multiverse, and you're still steering your fucking ship the same way, and then you start having problems. And the problems, what do? You don't want to overcome the problems because you've learned that the way to overcome problems is to go into autopilot. So you go into autopilot again. And the next thing you know, you're like 10 levels deep in a super trance where you're doing everything you can to get out of experiencing the present moment and actualizing yourself. And now you're just a fucking robot. And then you get depressed. Because underneath it all is this tiny flickering coal that no one can put out. And that's the Atman. And it's down there deep. And it's fucking it's like that nuclear reactor in Japan. You can't put it out. You can't put it out. It's under there. It's just under there, sizzling away underneath all the layers of your repression and self-hypnosis. And that fucking creates this awful sense of nausea, or a sense of like, oh, what's wrong with I don't know. If you didn't have that, you'd probably be able to just exist as a zombie and not even think about it. You'd just be a robot. But that fucking thing tortures you. And so you get on antidepressants to try to stop the feeling. You get on fucking this or that. You start drinking. You get addicted to drugs to try to avoid the fucking to avoid taking yourself out of autopilot. Because generally, if you've been on autopilot for a long time, you've got a mess to clean up, and nobody wants to clean up that mess. It's like you haven't cleaned your house for 17 years or something. It's like a hoarder's house. Your subjective universe is a hoarder's house. You got to clean that shit up. So the idea is, pop yourself off autopilot. If you're not feeling great right now, pop yourself off autopilot. If you're feeling down or depressed, identify the vampires in your life, excise them from your life, transform them if you can, or abandon them. And then once you've done that, start cleaning up the fucking mess. And just the very act of cleaning up that mess will fill you with a kind of exuberance that you have forgotten about. Because you're not on autopilot anymore, you're living. And that little spark, my sweet EMIL, will become a fire of freedom that will sweep across this planet until all the Kardashians of the world have been pushed into the outer darkness where there is much wailing and gnashing of teeth, and we all hump and fuck each other until the cows come home. That's my dream of paradise.
I just remembered this. Since your point is so compartmentalized in its perfectness, I figure we could talk about anything now. But like I remember being in front of our dorm room, and I was lying on the pavement or something and this hippie girl. In I mean, your ultimate classic sundress vibe, in college.
Sure.
Was like drinking out of a flask or something, and she looked at me with this kind of like, hey brother vibe, which was fine. And I felt inside, absolutely no. Well, I guess I should be honest. Let's see. So I remember she turned to me and she was like, what's your name? And I don't know why, but I've always hated that question. And I don't, it's not because my name is weird or like people missay it. I find people who get annoyed when somebody mispronounces your name to be actually like far more annoying. But I turned to her and I was just like, you know what? That's not important. Like, who cares what my name is? And I was being totally 100% sincere and like not. I mean, I know it sounds like I'm an asshole, which sure probably am.
No, you're
but
not.
At the time, I was just like, I was being totally serious. I was like, let's get past that stupid shit. And like, if you want to talk about anything, let's hang out or let's go do something or get to know each other. But that is so meaningless, and I can't even think about what my name is right now. But I remember it just like immediately she just was like, "You are a fucking asshole," and like I'll never be nice to you again. And I kind of understand that though. I mean, because like whatever hoop I was supposed to jump through to perform a friendship deed in a games people play sense, I just like refused to do that, which makes sense. So that said to her, like she thought I was like being like too good for the conversation or something. That was not what I meant, but just I mean interactions like that have, looking back through my life, I can see hundreds and hundreds of interactions like that where sometimes I walk down the street and I think to myself, am I a total fucking asshole? Like I think about it like kind of regularly, I guess. I guess like anybody should, because you're always gaining, at least to some degree with aging, maybe even just scientifically, because you are able to look back at more time. You are gaining some opportunity for some objectivity to some degree, and so I feel like it's your obligation to look at the behavior that you've exhibited over your life and ask yourself, do I create my own misery in social interaction by basically treating people like shit? And I feel like I can find so many instances where I was just, honestly, I don't know if you remember, but my sense of humor is so weird. And like, I know I can think of thousands of times where I walked up to someone and without, they didn't know me, and I just like said something I thought was hilarious to like out of boredom. And that's fucking the key to a lot of my behavior, is like out of boredom to entertain myself. I said something off the cuff that they just were not able to interpret. I realized like there's thousands of people that I've encountered in my life that will always probably think of me as just like a raging psychotic asshole just because I was trying to entertain myself with some sort of stream of consciousness banter or something. I don't know. Can you relate to that on any level?
Yeah. Well, look, yeah, and like, you know, like, this is the thing. People will, once you start thinking about, man, I want the world to be a good place, or once you start having, like, you start giving yourself you start indulging yourself with the joy of having lofty ideas about evolving yourself, and if you can evolve yourself, maybe it'll spread to the rest of the species, or maybe you could be part of an acceleration and evolution that's happening all over the planet right now, and you can really tune into it and become part of that. You start entertaining these ideas and experimenting with them, and then you begin to actually see, holy shit, this isn't bullshit. These ideas really work. Something's happening, and like you begin to feel authentically happy again. Well, that's when it's easy to get into this place where you think, oh, see, now I can't be an asshole. Now I can't, in other words, you start thinking, oh, my behavior, therefore, should always be good, and everyone I'm around feels great, and I'm always just spreading that joy and love, and everyone's just getting a spark of my love and happiness, and they're just growing and growing and growing. It is not that. It is not that. It's not that. It's fuck, man. You have to give yourself permission to be that asshole. You know, you have to give yourself permission to have the courage to be that fucking thing. You know, and I think that's probably the difference between you and maybe some people, is that, you know, there's this lucidity to you in the stuff that you're doing that I haven't really run into in a lot of people ever. And so when you're doing these things, it's very painful to you. You're kind of like when, you know, you're like Raskolnikov or something, right? You're experiencing this kind of fever, you know, and you're aware of the fever coming over you. And you're watching yourself go through the seizures, and it's hard, it fucks with your head because you don't know why you're doing it. But I don't think this is a mark of, I think it's just part of being lucid, you know, and I do that shit. I'm trying to think the last time I really fucking, I was doing like shitty things. I mean, I could always feel it when the fucking seizure kicks in, when the ego seizure happens, or where was I? I was like in an audition or something, and like they were running like maybe 20 minutes late. And I feel the ego seizure come in. I don't have to be anywhere, man. There's nowhere for me to be. It's air conditioned in there. It's relatively comfortable. It sucks to be around actors, but it's not that bad. They're kind of interesting. They wear these little leather boot shoes and talk about their New York apartments and stuff, and it's kind of annoying. But like, I was sitting there, and the ego seizure kicks in, and all of a sudden there's this part of me, this indignant part of me that's like, you know what? This is an outrage. This is outrageous. Why am I having to wait? We shouldn't have to wait. Why don't they have their shit together? I mean, what if I had something to do? What if I had something? That's what my ego did. It's like, what if I had I don't have anything to do. My ego's like, yeah, but what if you did? And so then I'm starting to get pissed, you know, and I didn't react to it. I just sat there and let the thing have its fit, like a child having a tantrum, and it dissipated and went away. But sometimes I don't control the child. The beast controls me, and the beast comes out. When the beast comes out, you'll find yourself in the middle of the dumbest fight you've ever gotten in, or not a dumb fight. You'll find yourself in a fight that's really smart, and you'll all of a sudden watch. Now you're the toddler sitting in the middle of this fucking iron monster, this beast, and you're just a little baby sitting there looking up through the slit eye hole of this thing as it just ransacks a friend or someone that you love by saying cruel and awful things to them. And you're just watching it happen, and you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this?
I totally, I totally ask myself why it's necessary to follow that compulsive part of yourself that knows you're trying to hurt someone, like because you know your brain tells you it's going to feel good to do it, you know.
Yeah, and it does feel good, and it, like, to try to pretend that it doesn't feel good, you're a liar and a coward. It feels great. I'm sure when people used to fucking duel with each other, it probably felt great to feel that fucking sword pierce through the heart of your enemy. You know, it feels good momentarily to, you know, and when you're in an argument with someone, or you find yourself saying hurtful things, whether it's to someone you're dating, or whether it's to a waiter, or whether it's to someone in a cab, or whether it's to someone at your work, you know, you really are running a sword through their ego. You're like piercing their ego. You're cutting their ego. You're finding a place that they're obscuring from themselves, and you're trying to hit it. And you're not doing it because you want them to grow. You're doing it because you want them to sting. And the thing is, that feeling of wanting someone to hurt, it's unsustainable. That's the problem. It's like 30 minutes later, or 2 days later, or a month later, it's gonna go away. And then all that's gonna be left is this feeling of like, I really, really, really wish I didn't do that. And,
you know, if you didn't record this, if it's had a malfunction along the past hour or so, I'm gonna take a lot of pleasure in slapping your face.
Hold on. We're back. It's the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. You're listening to my dearest friend, mentor, beautiful man, EMIL Amos. Listen to his music every day. I probably listen to, you know what, man? I probably listen to your music, no joke, every day of my life for the last 20 years. How weird is that? I
probably deserve some sort of like Spotify 0.06 cents kickback for that, huh?
Dude, I fucking love your music so much, and when I play it, I've now played your songs at the end of so many podcasts that you could probably sue me. The
one thing I'll say, if it, I don't know what it makes you feel like or anything, but I'm working on this thing right now where I make a compilation of music that I listened to when I was 13, and I'm gonna put out a skate video that me and my two best friends made when we were 13, and there's something. A lot of people talk about it in hardcore, but it's something about hardcore, because a lot of people don't know this, but hardcore music was mostly, almost across the board, a positive form of music that was about life, just this ultimate exaltation of like living life in sort of a pure sense. I don't know how much you know about it, but Youth of Today, was one of the quintessential straight edge hardcore bands, and they became very, very famous for basically becoming Hare Krishnas. You probably have heard of that.
I have heard of it, but that just about that much. That's about as much as I know.
Yeah. Oh, Youth of Today was they were looked down upon, but they were one of my favorite groups because I was 13 years old, so whatever. I loved this shit. And their singer, Ray of Today, was a pretty famous Hare Krishna, and I think a kind of an amazing guy. And I still really love a lot of their stuff. But I guess my point is that when I hear it now, it makes me feel exactly the same, and the way that music makes you feel, and it has a lot to do with the energy of it, which is weird because a lot of loud, hard, fast music is negative energy shit, but like this music makes you feel like, I don't know, it makes you feel like Bobby Lee in the Maxwell House commercial when he's on top of the mountain.
That's such a funny reference.
That's the funniest fucking commercial I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, it makes you feel like running, and like it makes you feel like a little kid. Like you just want to like jump up and down, and it's just It makes you feel so fucking happy. And I honestly, nothing in my entire life has ever made me feel like that, except for maybe skateboarding, which is also another thing that I'm going to be doing in this feature. But I don't know why that is. I think it has to do with physicality and just like, some sort of athletic, like how it just invigorates you in general, like to move and have the blood like rush through your veins and shit. But like positivity, anyway, it's a fascinating thing. So if in some way, if I could make anyone feel those feelings, which kind of goes back to, some feelings of potential spiritual failure as the music went from that kind of life appreciation theme to kind of like skepticism, pessimism again. If I could make, back then, it was kind of my objective, is to communicate. And John Casey's told me once that he believed that I would one day crack the code. And he was talking about writing, because I was really into writing. But in music, that's exactly what I wanted to do, and I really appreciated him saying that, because I wanted to articulate, this kind of this truth that we're talking about.
Yeah, man.
Like kind of like the gospel of the evolution of consciousness. That's what. But I mean, what singer has ever sang about that?
Nice. Well, that's the new gospel. See, it hasn't quite been written yet, and we're all working on it at the same time. Now, check this out. This is a fascinating thing that they say in the type of Buddhism I practice. I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which is a whole other podcast. But like there's a scroll called the Gohanzen that you chant to, which is this scroll that was created by this enlightened being named Nichiren Daishonin. And so they have this idea where they say that because it, like Van Gogh, when you see his paintings, there's a feeling that goes along with the paintings. Or Picasso, when you see the paintings, there's a feeling that goes along with the paintings. And this is a Hare Krishna idea too, which is that, this is why Hare Krishnas would say don't eat food at restaurants, because when you're eating food, you're not just eating food, you're eating the food, the energy of whoever cooked the food gets captured within the food. And so they say the energy of this enlightened being is captured within this Gohanzen scroll. And in the same way, with your music, what you've done in this this ethic of being completely honest is you've managed to capture these specific feeling states that when you listen to the music, it induces that feeling state. And not just stuff from way back when, man. It's fucking all the way through. You might be being a little hard on yourself because the feeling that you're capturing isn't the exuberant evolution of consciousness, the tarot card of the Fool, 0. I thought it was 1. Someone corrected me from the podcast. 0. The fucking Fool wandering off a cliff with a dog yapping around it. Maybe you've moved through your fucking reality tunnel, and you've begun to experience a feeling that isn't that manic exuberance. Maybe it's something else, but you've captured it. And that's why you're a fucking artist, because you fucking captured it. It's not about what you captured, it's that you captured it. So many people can't even do that.
Well, that's very well put. I'm surprised that someone who doesn't record themselves, because I mean recording is capturing. And if you really know what's going on in terms of your searching for your own emotional reality and actually trying to reflect it perfectly, if you really know that's a magical process, and so if you really understand it, it's truly capturing is probably one of the perfect adjectives, in terms of basically harnessing it.
I understand it. Listen, there's so many different ways to capture this fucking energy that's happening right now. There's so many ways to record it and capture it. And I kind of see us all as people who are sailing the ship of evolution through the multiverse, and we have to be cartographers. And we have to get very good at mapping the terrain that we're in, whatever the terrain happens to be in. It's not always going to be some kind of you can't expect to always be in comfortable terrain, but you can if you begin to really like value the evolution of your own personal evolution, which is simultaneously valuing the evolution of your species, if you can really get to that point where you start valuing that pursuit, then regardless of the terrain that you're in, you're going to feel pretty fucking great, because you're in a sacred battle. And there's nothing greater than the sacred battle. And this is why the Bhagavad Gita takes place on the field of Kurukshetra, the field of sacred truth, a giant battle taking place. Because that's where we're at. And once you start that fucking fight and start chopping the heads off those fucking vampires that have been keeping you down, not literally, but metaphorically, man, it's the fucking best, dude. It's the fucking best. It's
well, we're planning to do this more often.
Don't
now.
wrap this up for me, you motherfucker! I'll wrap this son of a bitch up.
I'm not rapping, but I am kind of wrapping it up by saying, what are you going to do tonight?
I'm going to the Bigfoot Lodge. I think I'm going to go with some friends and have a couple of beers.
Is that where you took me for the trivia?
No, that was the I can't remember the name of that place. The Sausage House.
You're not doing trivia anymore?
No, I'm not doing trivia anymore. The trivia team was sort of that. That's one of the sad things that happens with a breakup, is like you kind of have this group of friends that form around the relationship, and it's kind of tough to be like, hey, you guys want to all go do trivia, and then like, it's just going to be kind of awkward. So, I mean, I'm sure that maybe that'll start again at some point, but no more trivia, which I never liked. I never enjoyed trivia. It was.
I fucking hate it. You never told me you didn't like it. I fucking hate it.
I hate it. It was sweaty in there and just unhappy. The whole thing was it was just no fun at all. But so I like those guys. I like those people, but I don't miss the trivia that much. But yeah, so we're gonna have a few drinks. But here's the announcement. So EMIL is going to become a regularly appearing guest on this podcast, because now that we're doing this Skype thing. It makes it really easy to do, and there's no reason not to do it. So we're going to record another one of these, which I'll put out later down the line. EMIL, are you on Twitter?
No.
That's why your music's sad!
What the fuck are you talking about?
You got to get on Twitter, man.
I do?
Yeah, get on Twitter. You got to start tweeting.
Okay.
There's all these people who listen to this, and they're going to want to, like, follow you on Twitter, so anytime you put out like a new song or you put out something, they can all listen to it.
Well, I realize the profundity of Twitter, but I for the next episode I'll maybe get into it. But I really miss the world before all this stuff. And I don't mean in some sort of like teary-eyed hippie way in any particular way, but I've always wanted to go back in time, not in any really, I'm not being that serious, but like growing up, I always wanted to go back in time. And now I almost am filled with romantic images of the way life was before this kind of virtual takeover. And I'm not a Luddite, and I spend most of my time on a computer, but I miss certain things about the way the world was, because partially I grew up in Chapel Hill, so partially like, the way I saw the world, the way I grew up, I was fucking conditioned by small town life, and small town life is not the way the world is, and I didn't know that, and so I kind of think every day I go through a little bit of strange, almost depression that life isn't as quaint as it was when you could walk down the street to the record store, and then just down the street to the bookstore, and just down the street to the, and you interacted with all these people, and it was just, you held things in your actual hands. You could count things. Things were like real, back then. Anyway, it's not something that I feel that strongly about, but I do miss that pre-Twitter, pre-internet age. I do also love the internet. It's brought me a lot of Brought me a lot of incredible shit, but I just like to say that, and we can talk about it next time.
Well,
maybe.
it's a little bit of a pang when you think back to the old days. I can remember riding when like you didn't have a cell phone, you know, no answer. I mean, answering machines were relatively new. So on the weekends, if you wanted to find your fucking friends, you'd have to like drive up and down the main drag and hope you passed them in their truck. I remember that shit, man. It was fun, a lot less worries, and it was like it was a simpler time. But unfortunately, we're approaching the end of history. So guess what? You don't get to go back to those days. Surrender to the complexity. Let's talk about it on Sunday. It's time for you to fragment into a billion pieces and reform again. Is I don't know what the evolutionary Christ.
I'm
How
going.
do you end a podcast on that? We can't end on that. Hold on.
Well, I was gonna say that I'm going to go see my friends play in this band called Quasi. Have you ever heard of them?
No, I haven't.
I'm going there right now, and they are playing down the street from my house. If you want to listen to a song of theirs, I recommend a song called "I Never Want to See You Again," and I think you'll hear some Sebadoh-isms in songwriting, and Janet is in the band. She's really cool. But anyway, check that out just because I'm going to do that right now.
Send me a link to it and see if they'll let me play it at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, I don't think they'd care, but yeah, just look up "I Never Want to See You Again" by Quasi, and you'll have it.
Okay, man.
You can put it. Do you still do Go Deeper?
Yeah, it's gonna be now it's on the message board, so it's just like it's gonna be in the thread where we're discussing the podcast. And if you don't know, so you should,
that makes sense.
So join the message board. What's your website?
Well, there's an archive at holysons.com, but I don't know. I've been talking to people on the various bands' Facebook page, but I have four bands, you know, so people probably get a little bit confused, but
we got to
anyway.
get your social networking polished up. That's the project for Sunday. We got to get your social network in order, motherfucker. How are you going to catch any social fish if your social net's got holes in it? Okay, okay, everybody. That's it for this one. EMIL's going to be back. We love you. Go to DuncanTrussell.com and join the forums. If you like this podcast, donate money. If you don't donate money, I still love you. Hare Krishna. Please get some pussies wet this weekend and for every weekend after. Make sure to get some cocks hard. Spray jizz and love your neighbor, because that's what we're here for.
Such is the life of gods, of godlike men. A liberation from all earthly bonds that take no pleasure in the earthly desires. A flight of the alone to the alone. See, I'm deliberate, leave feeling my way. See, I am power over faculty, so flighty and free, at an altar of the power rising underneath. You see all through the ages and times, I never had to say